Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining today's conference, BSPS Canadian Importer Broker Training, adding animal information to the new template and creating an importation request in BSPS. Please note that all participant lines will be muted until the Q&A portion of the call. We'll provide you with instructions on how to ask a verbal question at that time. You are welcome to submit written questions during the presentation, and these will be addressed during Q&A. To submit a written question, use the chat panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Choose All Panelists from the Send To drop-down menu. If you require technical assistance, send a note to the event producer or call our help desk at 888-796-6118. With that, I'll turn the call over to Tracy Samuelson, IT Specialist. Please go ahead.
All right, welcome everyone. I'm glad you're able to make it to this afternoon's webinar. Again, my name is Tracy Samuelson, IT Specialist for USDA APHIS Veterinary Services. I've been working with this feeder cattle project since last fall when we started the pilot. This morning we went over getting your level 1 authentication account and setting up your VSPS profile and importer role in VSPS. And I emailed out the PowerPoint so you can walk through that to get set up if you missed the webinar. That webinar was also recorded and should be available next week at the on the VSPS Interstate Library, which I sent out that link in an email also. For this webinar, I'll be going through how to create your spreadsheet template of animals and how to get that information uploaded into VSPS along with other required information. And as a recap to this morning's call, any person that is entering information into VSPS for animals coming into the U.S. will need the importer role. So even if you are a broker or a veterinarian that's entering information for the importer, you would still need the importer role. We call the people importing cattle from Canada importers. If you're in Canada, you would refer to yourselves as exporters, so that can get a little confusing, but since this is a U.S.-based system, it knows you as an importer, so that's why you have to request the importer role. First, I want to go through the template that will be needed for each health certificate. Like I said, it's up to you if you want as the importer to enter it yourself, or if you want the broker to do it for you, or your veterinarian. That can be discussed between you to decide who wants to do that. I want to bring up the Canadian template here. For people that were involved in the initial pilot that's still going on right now, the template that we are currently using is a little bit different than this. This is a new template that will be needed to be used when you start entering these importations into VSPS. The main difference is that we used to require an age value min and max. So you do like 1 year to 1 year, even though they're all just 1 year old. Now we just have, these one field for the age instead of having to do it twice. And this is how our system knows to upload it to the correct field. So made the changes to make it simpler also. So this is what the blank template will look like. It will be available in VSPS for you to download, and once we get to that part, I'll show you where you can download the template, and then there's also a tips section that'll give you tips on how to fill out the template. So the maximum number of animals that can be put on the spreadsheet is 500. Columns with headings in red are required. Columns with headings that have a yellow background have drop lists, and you must use a value in the list only. Those fields flow to certain fields in our system, and they won't accept any other options besides what is given in that list. So like for gender, it has to be castrated male, intact male, female, or spayed female. For age unit, it must be either weeks, months, or years. And for breed, there's a long list of a breed to select. If you don't have the pure breed, we do have mixed breed as an option. So you can select that if you don't see your choice in the drop list. So the RFID is a required field. It must be 15 digits with no decimals, no spaces, no commas. It must be one number, solid. That's how our system accepts it. This is just an example here for you. Owner ear tag, it's a text field, so you can enter any letter number combination in that field. Other field is the same. You can enter any letter number combination. Again, gender, those are the options. Age value, it would be a whole number greater than 0. Age unit, those are the options. Date of birth is only required if you don't enter an age value and age unit, so it's either or. You must enter either age value and age unit or a date of birth. Most people have been entering the age value, age unit. But if you prefer to just do the date of birth, that's fine. And then health certificate is a required field, and it must be listed for every animal. I'll show you an example of that on one of my example spreadsheets here. On the tips file, we'll also have a list of the port email addresses. You'll need to know the port email address in order to send them the list of cattle that were not loaded on the truck in the morning. If you had something that got injured or had to be removed. If the animal was listed on the health certificate spreadsheet that you upload into VSPS, but it didn't get loaded on the truck, an email would need to be sent to the port mailbox, and have to specify the health certificate number and the RFID of the animal removed and the owner ear tag if there was one. And that list will be available on this tip section on the second page. It's still being worked on, so it'll be uploaded when it's completed before this process starts. So going back to the template to show you the red for RFID that's required, gender required, and the yellow meaning it has a drop list. Castrated male, intact male, female, spayed female. Age value, age unit, again required, in the yellow meaning there's a drop list. Weeks, months, years to select. Date of birth if you don't enter age value or age unit. And then breed is yellow since it has a drop list, and red since it's required. And then you can scroll through and find what breed you'd like. And then health certificate is red because it's also required. So if you get a spreadsheet from your veterinarian and you're going to be doing this yourself, you can just copy the fields from their spreadsheet onto our template. You could copy, the RFID, owner ear tag if there was one. Usually gender is different than what we require. I think it's steer and heifer that they list them as. So make sure that you select one of these options instead of don't copy and paste heifer or steer into gender. And then breed is usually something that doesn't match one of ours. So make sure to go through the list and find one that matches, or just do a mixed breed if you can't find it in the list. I'll show an example of one that's completed. So here's a completed template with the RFID, owner ear tag. I think most of the time they have the color of the cattle. Genders here listed with castrated male. Age value is 1 year old. Mixed breed, and then the health certificate number. So I just wanted to go through a couple quick tips for completing your template that can make data entry faster for you. Just going to enter a 15-digit RFID. And these fields you'll likely be copying from the spreadsheet or health certificate. I'm just going to make up some numbers to show you, which I should at least do a different number here. So for the drop list, once you have your fields copied over from your health certificate or spreadsheet onto this template, you could select one of the options from the drop list, castrated male, and if you just select in here and do the little, go to the bottom right corner, you'll see the little black crosshairs, and if you double click on that, it'll just pre-fill it all down to the rest of the rows. So that's a quick way of doing the data entry. You don't have to do each line separately. Same with years. I'll just go to the bottom right and then double click, and then it pre-fills all the way down. There's multiple ways to do that. You can also copy and paste down, but you can also use items under, data to copy, paste, and such. But many different ways, but I just wanted to show you one way to try to make things quicker for filling out the template. So for the health certificate, you have to make at least the first two the same. If you want all of the ones below it to be the same, highlight the first two, and then double click, and the rest will go down and be the same. So just hopefully that'll help make the data entry a little easier. And if you need help with doing spreadsheets or anything, I'll be giving, there's an email that you can send a help request to, and there's a group of us that can help you with anything with this process, really, with a spreadsheet or with getting things uploaded into VSPS, anything on the process. So we're here to help you if you get stuck with anything. So after you have your template completed, you want to go to File, Save As, and you want to save your template with the same name as the health certificate number. So you could copy and paste it if you want, or you could type it in there, whatever works for you. You're to save it with the health certificate number and save it as, it must be in the XLSX format, Excel workbook. That's the newest Excel format. What our system is built to accept, and then you want to save it. And then that'll be ready for uploading into the VSPS system once you get to that area. I guess if I could open it up for any questions on doing this template, that would be good, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we move to Q&A, please feel free to place yourself into the question queue by pressing pound 2 on your telephone keypad. You will hear notification when your line is muted. At that time, please state your name and question. And just a reminder, to submit a written question, use the chat panel on the right-hand side of your screen choose All Panelists from the Send To drop-down menu. And we did receive a written question. Can you please confirm, is owner ear tag conditionally required when present on the animal or optional in all cases?
I guess if Dr. Schuler could answer that question, if it's required, if it's on the animal. I think you can just talk. I don't think you have to do pound.
Okay. Can you hear me? I guess it would be optional. It would be nice to have it, but it's not required.
Okay. Thank you.
And at this time, there are no further questions.
Okay. So we will carry on, and if someone thinks of a question, you can ask it at any time, and when questions open up again, we can go back to it if needed. So,
if I could add just a little bit, occasionally a tag will get ripped out, and having the owner ear tag is helpful.
So yeah, I guess if it is on the health certificate, I mean, I think it would be good to put on the spreadsheet. You know, if it's available, I think it would be good to put it on there. I think that would be the consensus, right, Dr. Schuler?
Yep, that's true. It would, but if the question becomes, is it required? No, we won't refuse the vote if you don't have it, but it is helpful to have.
Okay. Anything else or anybody?
No further questions this time.
All right. Thank you. So I'm going to go through the next part, which is once you are logged into VSPS. So this is the VSPS home screen. You have options on the left side. This help desk is a general help desk. They know about the process, but it would probably be best to email the email group that I will be giving you later for help questions, because it'll be a group that's trained specifically on this process and how to help you. So first I want to go through the address book. Once you get your level 1 EOS and get logged into VSPS and do your profile and have your role, you'll see these options, and it might be a good idea if you have your same people that you send cattle to. You can go in here and add them to your address book, so it'll be faster to add them to an importation request once you get to that part. So the address book is under Business Profile. And all this information will be sent to you also in a PowerPoint version with step-by-step and print screens, and also a couple job aids that I'll be showing after this demo. So don't feel like you have to scramble and make notes for all this, because we have it all written out for you step-by-step to try to make this as easy as possible. So Business Profile. And then you go to the address book link. And this is your address book search area. So once you have people in your address book, you can search for them if you need to change anything by their business name or by first name or last name or by city, or if you just want to search for everyone in a certain state. And then we'll also be going over later if you want to add a shared address book. If you have multiple people in your company that you want to share, everyone has their own login, but you want to be able to share an address book so everyone doesn't have to enter all of the contacts over and over. You can create a shared book, and then you can share it so everyone has access, which is a nice feature. So if you just click search, it'll bring up everyone in your address book. If you end up getting, 500 plus contacts in there, when you click on search, it can take a little bit of time to search for it. So if you find that the search is taking a while, you might want to narrow your search by, searching for just the name, or, if you have multiple books, just searching for people in your shared book. So once you find one, if you need to change something, you can click on Edit. And it takes you to the Edit Contact page, and all their information is listed here, and items with the red asterisks are required. So you can make any changes that you would need if their phone number changed or address. And you always need to check on the I affirm that the information entered is completed correctly, completely, accurately. So after you make the changes, you can click on, just clicking Save would leave you on this screen. Save and Return takes you back to the previous screen. So I usually do Save and Return. And it says you have updated the contact information. Here listed under Book, that means if you have a shared address book, this means it's in my personal book. And this is I called it Office name for the shared book. So that means it's in that shared book. So personal, only you can see those addresses. A shared book would be able to be seen with the people that you specifically share it with. So I just wanted to mention, everyone has their own logins. No one can see anyone else's information for animal imports or addresses or anything else, unless you decide to create a practice and share the address book with someone else specifically. So to add people to your address book, under Action, in the middle of the screen here, you would leave it as Add Entry to Book. And then for address book, if you're just going to use your personal one, leave it as Personal. If you did create a shared book, you would select the shared book that you want to share it with and then click Go. I'm just going to do the personal one for now. And this is where you'd enter your contact information. So you would do their business name if they have one. First name, last name is required. And an address. And your state. Zip code or postal code. For the U.S., it must be 5 numbers. Once you enter a postal code, and if you hit the Tab button on your keyboard, it'll automatically find and pre-fill the county for you. It's not required, it's just, it'll fill it in for you. And then country is defaulted to United States, and then phone number is required. And when you have all you can enter information on the mailing address and shipping address if you wanted to use this address book. It's kind of your company address book too, but these don't flow anywhere. The main address is what flows over to the import screen. So you want to make sure that is the one you use. And always check the I affirm box, and then Save and Return. Okay, so this is Samuelson and Ranch is the one I just added. And so if you decide that you do want to create a shared address book and you had all these entries in your personal book, but you want to end up sharing them with the other people, you would just search, uncheck the ones for your or the shared book. You just want personal selected and search. And then it just says under book, it's just showing all your personal ones. So if you wanted to copy those to a shared book, you just check the box to select all. And then under Action, you want to select Copy Selected to Book. And then for address book, you would select the shared address book name, which if you would do this, you would just have one book. I have two just from testing purposes. So once you select your shared book that the other people have access to, click on Go. That says 5 contacts have been copied. So now if I uncheck the personal box and check the box for my shared book that I moved them or copied them to, the Samuelson address book, and search, it brings them up. And then under book, you can see it, it doesn't show the entire name, but shows the first part. So now they're in the Samuelson address book. If you didn't want them in both your personal and the shared book, so you wouldn't have to keep up, both spots and worry about selecting the wrong one if edits were made to one but not the other. After you verify that they're in the shared book, you could search in your personal book again, and you could check the box for all of them and then delete selected and say from personal. And then I'm not going to delete these, but if you wanted to, then you wouldn't have anything in your personal book and they'd all be in the shared book. Just keep in mind that once they're in a shared book, you can't move them back to a personal book. So we'll keep that in mind. All right, so that goes over the address book. I'll show how to create it's creating a practice in order to create a shared address book. So to do that, you go back to the business profile and go to practices. It's called practices. A lot of veterinarians in the United States use this system. So they set up a practice which is the same as a shared address book. And this is, I have one in here already, so that's why it has edit and delete. If you're creating a new one, you click on create a new practice. And you just need a business name, usually your company name or last name, something like that. You don't need address or anything else. And check the iFirm box and save. And once your practice is created, towards the middle of the screen, there's a user email address area. And this is where you can add people to share your address book. So enter their email address. They have to have, before you invite them, they need to have their level 1 eAuth account, the Authentication account. They have to have logged into VSPS and completed their profile. And then they can be invited to the practice. And they should have their importer role also. And add user. That says that person has been invited to the practice. So after that person is invited to the practice, they would need to log in. The person that was invited would need to log into VSPS, and then they go back to the business profile and practices area. And then they'll have an option here under action to accept the invitation. Since I'm already a member here, it says to leave the practice or shared address book, but they would have an option to accept. And then after they accept it, then they would have access to see that shared address book and add people and edit and everything else. All right, I guess I would like to take questions for this section, please.
And just a reminder, if you would like to ask a verbal question, please press #2 on your telephone keypad. And to submit a written question, use the chat panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Choose All Panelists from the Send To drop-down menu. At this time, there are no questions in the queue.
Okay, I'll just carry on. So in order to create an importation request, you would click on Animal Import on the left, and click on Routine Import, And this section is where you can download your tips that I showed you and the template. There's one for Canada and one for Mexico. Of course, you'd want the one for Canada. They are different, so you want to select the correct one. You just click on the little icon under templates, and you can save it right away or just click on open and open again, and then it opens up the blank template for you to get your information over to. And then the tips works the same. You just click on the little PDF icon under tips, click on open twice, and then it opens up your tips for you. So the next step is to create new importation. Port of arrival is wherever the animals are crossing through. You want to make sure you pick the correct one. If after you create the importation request and you selected the wrong port of arrival, you would have to void out that importation request and create a new one because that cannot be changed after the entry is created. So select done safe here. Your date of entry is when the animals will be crossing into the United States. I'm going to leave the date of entry for today. You can do any date ahead of today. Health certificate country is default to Canada since done safe is selected. And the port of embarkation is also auto-filled for you, Manitoba, Canada. Transit void after and port of exit, you do not want to enter into any information there. Customs entry number, you do want to enter that number if it's available to you. So if after you create the importation request, if you get an error that it could not be validated, that just means that our system hasn't been updated. This check digit on the back can change, and sometimes the new codes aren't listed into our system as fast as they change. So it doesn't mean your number is wrong. It just means that our system hasn't been updated yet. So you can just click on the accept non-validated CEN, and it'll let you go through. Permit numbers you want to enter if you have it or if it's required. Your vehicle identifier is the semi-truck plate numbers. Health certificate number, you will just want to do one health certificate per importation request. So for importer, that is the owner of the cattle in Canada. It pre-fills to the information that was filled out on the personal profile page. It just assumes that since you have the importer role that you're the one importing, but you can change this information because you could be entering for someone else, which is fine. It just tries to make it easy for you if you are entering them for yourself. So you can click on the little address book icon, and the address book search screen will come up, and you can search by, if you just click search, it'll bring up everything. It's a good idea to narrow your search, especially if your address book is getting large. So just enter a last name or ranch name and click on search. And then your options come up in the list. I have a lot of the same here from testing, but click on copy next to the one that you want to bring over. And it'll pre-fill the information on that side, which really should be one from Canada. I can select Canada from list. If you need to change the country, select the country first, and then the states will change to the provinces. Sorry, I'll just do Winnipeg because that's... Okay, so destination is where the cattle are going. Again, you can do the address book icon, search in your address book, search, and click on copy next to the one you want to bring over, and it pre-fills information for you. So if you were typing in, you can also type in a new person and address from the screen and then click on the little plus sign with the address book. And it'll copy that information to the personal address book. It won't add it to a shared address book. If you added it to your personal and wanted it in your shared one, you'd have to go back to the business profile address book and move and copy it from your personal to that shared book. So once you hit, type in the postal code and hit tab, it pre-fills the city and state for you on the screen. Type the phone number. Then you can do the little plus sign. It gives you a little notification that you've created a new contact record, and you can just close out of that window. And there is, if information is the same, so say the shipper is the same as the importer, you click on that link, it'll pre-fill the information from the importer. If the consignee is the same as destination, click on that quick link, it'll just pre-fill that, so it helps with data entry. And then you'd enter a broker if there is one here in the broker section. So make sure you have all information entered and make sure it's correct. You can change any of this information except for port of arrival after you create it. So keep that in mind. I'm going to uncheck this box so you can see what the message looks like when it can't validate a number, customs entry number. So if you get this error that says error validating customs entry number, try again or check the box, not available, applicable, except non-validated CEN. So you just have to check on that box and then scroll down and check on the I affirm box again and create. So your importation request has been created. It creates a temporary importation request at this time, so it starts with a T. And then it has a dash and a number after it. The summary screen shows all the information from the previous screen that you entered. You can click on Edit Information to get back to that screen and make any changes if you see something that needs to be changed. The next step is getting your animals added that you put in that template. So you'd click on Create Animals. There are 2 buttons. It doesn't matter which one you click on. So the first time that you go in here, you won't have these quick picks. These are, the quick picks are added from items that I have selected previously. So after you go through here and select, the first thing you'll have to do for unit, you'll do live animal. For group, you'll do bovine. Species is bovine. Unit of measure is number. And purpose of importation will be for feeding. After you select that the first time, it'll flow over to this quick pick section. So then you can just click on your quick pick entry and it'll pre-fill all that information, so you don't have to go through and select it from each of the drop downs. So after you have your selection, click on upload. Since you're uploading a spreadsheet, it gives you the message that the spreadsheet can only contain 500 individual animals. Again, the templates are available on this screen and tips section. In case you missed it on the previous screen, you should always go here and then create it. Keep in mind that when you're in VSPS, it will time out after 30 minutes of inactivity. So if you went to create your template and it took longer than a half an hour and you go back to this screen, it may have timed you out. So it's a good idea to have your spreadsheet template ready for upload before you go in here to create an importation request and upload it. So you click on Browse, and this takes you to all your files on your computer. So just go to wherever you saved your spreadsheet template. And you can double click on it to open it, or click on it and then click on Open. And it puts the file there, and then click on Upload and Create. And up at the top, you can see a little spinning at the very top of that tab, kind of pointing there with my mouse. That means it's thinking. So don't click on Upload and Create twice. Some people are used to double clicking on things when we're opening, like on a desktop, but in VSPS, you only want to click buttons once. So the 150 animals have been added to my group. This is how it shows in VSPS. This is exactly what was on your spreadsheet. If you need to make any changes, you could at this point. You shouldn't really need to, since typically you would make changes to your spreadsheet before you uploaded it. But the option is in here if you need to make any changes to say the breed was wrong or gender. You could just select the I want to, set the gender on all these checked items to, whatever you select, and apply. And then you would save it, but since your spreadsheet template should be correct, you shouldn't really need to make any changes. You would click on Return. Since I didn't make any changes, I can just click on Return. It'll take me back out to my summary screen, and it'll have my animal group listed here for bovine, 150 animals, castrated male, they're 1-year-old, for feeding, and then it lists my health certificate number there. So the next step is to add an attachment. Uploading the animals gets them into our system. For traceability purposes, we're able to search for those animal IDs. You also need to attach the spreadsheet that you uploaded because we use the attachment in order to get those animals onto our RFID wand at the port. So the port vet can read the IDs on the truck and be able to verify that those are the animals that are on the health certificate. So it seems like you're doing it twice, and you are, but it's used for different reasons, and they're both required. So next to attachments, click on New. For File, you click on Browse. And again, you just find your file that you uploaded. Click on Open. Name to use, you can type in a name that it would display on the summary screen. If you leave this blank, it'll just put the name of the file, how it's named, which is fine. So you can just leave name to use blank and click on Create. And since I named my file CA for Canada template and the number of animals, that's what it's named here. It should be the name of the health certificate number. So if you wanted to see if you went out and went back in and wanted to see what attachment you had, you can click on View and it'll bring up your spreadsheet of animals. Just click on View and then Open. And here's my spreadsheet that's attached. If it's the wrong one, you could delete it and then attach a different one if needed. So at this point, you make sure that everything is correct on here. And then you want to, once everything is correct, you want to click on the Submit button. This makes it so the port of arrival that you selected is able to see this importation request, and when they go in and look at them. Click on Submit, and you can see it's thinking. So now my status here is changed to Submitted to Port. And the port will automatically receive a notification that an importation request was submitted to their port, and then they know that they need to go into VSPS and take a look at it. So at that point, they review the importation request, and if there's anything that needs to be changed, if they see an error of any kind, if the wrong spreadsheet was attached, they can decline the importation request, which just makes it, and then they can put comments in there, and that'll send an email back to the person that entered it as the importer, and it'll give you this temporary importation request document number, and it'll show you the comments that were made in by the port saying what needs to be changed. So let me show you. To get back to create another importation request, you can just go to back to animal import, routine import, and create new importation. But I want to show you what the decline email looks like. Up on the screen here. So it'll look like this. The subject line will be VSPS notification of declined importation request, and it'll say action required. And it says this email is to inform you that importation request document number, and this is a document number that you want to, either copy and paste to search for in VSPS, so you can go make changes to it. And if you just highlight it and right-click and copy, kind of a quick way to do it, and then it says it has been declined for the following reason, attach correct spreadsheet of animals, or it'll say whatever the port found that needs to be changed. Then please don't reply to this email. If you need assistance, this is the help email address. You can just click on that, and it'll open up a new email for you to send an email to if you need help. So to find this document number, I copied it already. So you could go, there's a couple different ways to find things. I'll show you by we went to animal import, routine import, and then find existing importation. And then under document number here, you could right click and paste, and it'll paste in that number that you just copied, and port of arrival. You could leave it blank if you send cattle through multiple ports. I'll show you where to change that to default to a port if you always use the same one, so you don't have to always select it. You can search by many different things here, by importer, broker, destination, shipper, consignee. If you wanted to search for cattle that came through, in a certain time frame, in a week, month, whatever, you could do a date of entry of, August 1st through the 30th, and they'll bring up all those entries for that time frame. If you wanted to search for one just by customs entry number, by status, if you want to only search for ones right when you create it, before you submit it to the port, it's in an initial status. That means you're still working on it. The port can't see it yet, only you can see it. Submitted to port is after you click on submit, the status changes to submitted to port, and then the port is able to go in and review it. Once the port views that importation request, they mark it so it's under review. At that time, you can no longer make changes to the importation request. Then approved, approved and received they mean different things to the port, but to you, they can mean the same thing. If it's received or approved, that means that the port is working on that importation request and is processing it. And closed is after the importation request has been completed by the port, it's in a closed status. And of course, voided would be if you clicked on void and because you didn't need it any longer or had something on it, like if you had the wrong port and you can't change that, so you just click on void and then those have a voided status. Species you could probably really leave because you'll always be doing bovine. You'll always be doing live animals. You can leave that. If you want to search for an animal ID for any reason, you could put in their RFID, and then from this list you would select RFID, or you could search by owner ear tag if you had that listed. And then I'm going to change that back. So right now we're just searching for the document number that was declined because we want to make changes to that. So we just have our document number in there and click on search. And let me see here. So I had actually submitted this one earlier and declined it in the test system, and it was submitted to Pembina. So that's why it didn't come up when I had done C-selected, because I had selected it to go through a different port. So if you can't find something that you're expecting, just remove the port of arrival to blank so it searches for everything. Do your document number and search, and it'll come up here. So this is your search results screen. It has your document number, when it was created, the date of entry, the port, broker, importer, species, unit type is live animal, the number of cattle, purpose is feeding, origin, destination, customs entry number. I didn't have one for that one. And then the status, after they decline it, it moves it back to initial so you can make changes. So to make changes, you click on edit. And under the summary here, you can see the reason for decline shows up. It's in the email, and it also shows it here. So you'll want to make whatever changes that the port specified in this area. So for this example, it says attach correct spreadsheet of animals. So if that was the case, I could just, you could view your spreadsheet first and verify that, yes, it was the wrong spreadsheet. And then you could delete that spreadsheet and then go to new and attach the correct one. And once it's correct, you would submit it again. Always remember to submit, because just remember that the port cannot see it if you don't submit. The status has to be submitted to port for the port to see it, and then it goes through the rest of the statuses after they have reviewed it. So after it's initial when you create it, it's submitted to port after you submit it. It's under review when the port is reviewing it. It is approved or received when the port is processing it, and it's closed when the port has completed it. So if something else needed to be changed, like if you uploaded the wrong animal groups here, you can go to edit. It's spinning, so just wait for it. It says animal grid loading. So these are your animals. If just, one animal needed to be removed, you could, find it through the I want to action again and find animals by ID. And then you could find your animal by entering the RFID number or the owner ear tag, and apply. And then it just brings up that one animal that you found, and then you could delete just that one animal. I'm going to reset the filter to bring back my entire list. If all the animals, like if you had selected the entire wrong spreadsheet that you uploaded, you can delete all of these at one time by going under I want to, delete selected animals, and apply. It asks you if you're sure you want to delete the 150 animals, say okay. Gives you a message that it's deleting the animals. And please wait. Taking a while since I had 150 animals. I probably should have done a smaller spreadsheet for the example, huh? So just, I think most of the importations it seems on that come through from Canada seem to be around, 60 to 80 heads. So that's half the size of this. So when you select to make changes or delete an entire list, it shouldn't take that long. So let me see here. I just want to go through this job aid quick. This will be available on that website that we sent out, the VSPS Interstate Library. We'll go back to that after it's done deleting, but this goes through the instructions also. So these job aids both have a little tips section. So there's a VSPS website. You can always find it. Once you go to the VSPS website, it's probably a good idea to just make a shortcut to your desktop or put it in your favorites or something. Or if you just go to Google and type VSPS, it'll be the first option. Pop-up blockers, make sure you have turned off or disabled your pop-up blockers because we use pop-ups. So if you block them, then you'll have some trouble. Required fields are always listed in a red asterisk. Do not use your browser back button, the back or forward button. It'll kick you out. You can usually refresh the page and it'll a lot of times come back up, but it's best to not click on the forward or back button. Always use the options on the left in the blue to get to where you want to go, or I'll show you the little breadcrumb, they call them, towards the top of the screen to get back to a previous screen that you want to be at. If you are having trouble with your e-authentication username and password, this is the help desk number for them and their email address. E-authentication is separate than VSPS, so if you need help with that, make sure to call them or email them. And then if you need help once you get into VSPS or the spreadsheet, anything like that, use this email address and it'll send it to a group of people that, like I said, have been trained to help with this process. So this goes through what I just did was updating a declined importation request. And these instructions listed here can also be used if you just need to edit an importation request that you created. If the status is initial or submitted to port, you can still edit and make changes. So like I said, if they find something on the importation request that needs to be changed, they'll decline it and enter comments. You'll receive this email that I showed you with the document number that you'll need to go into the SPS and search for. So you do that by going to the animal import, routine import, find existing importation, type or copy and paste that document number from the email into this document number area and click search. Your search results will come up. Status is initial, so that means you have the edit options. You click on edit. Look in your declined reason for declined area to see what needs to be changed. Again, edit information to make any changes in that top section for date of entry, importer, broker, destination, shipper, consignee, customs entry number, vehicle identifier, or health certificate number. And then again, if you upload the wrong spreadsheet of animals, you'd click on Edit next to the animal group. And then to delete the entire list of animals, there's the I want to section, and then select the option to delete selected animals and apply. And then it will give you a message that however many animals you uploaded have been deleted, and you click the return button to get back to the summary screen. Just say okay to this warning. And then you go back and create your animals again and upload the spreadsheet that was correct. And I had went through, this goes over updating your attachment section if something needed to be changed. And always submit again after you've made your changes so the port can see it. So I go back to VSPS and my large group of animals have been deleted finally. So it says 150 animals have been deleted. The only option here is return, so I'll click on return. Now I don't have an animal group, so you want to go back to create animals. And you can do your quick pick, since you should have picked it once by now. And then for live animal, bovine, bovine feeding, and then upload. And then you can go to browse to select the correct spreadsheet of animals. I'm going to do the same one since it was right. And upload and create. Just remember to click on it once. With some buttons, it could create things twice. So if you end up with two animal groups, the button was probably clicked twice. So then you just have to go in and delete one group, like I showed you how. So this one has been added now. So I'll just click on return. So I have my one group of animals here. So if, say, you got to this screen and you had two lines of animals that were the same, so you had two lines of 150, that means that when you uploaded them, the button was probably clicked on twice, which is no big deal. You just have to go in. You only want one line here when you submit it. So click on Edit on the second one, or one of them. Doesn't matter which one. Just you want one line here and edit, and then delete the animals from that extra group that got created accidentally. So after you've made all your changes again, you click on Submit. And now the importation request is submitted to port again. So I'll show you how to, a different way to search. So if you go back to Animal Import, Routine Import, there's a View My Importations link. And this screen will show you all the importation requests that you have entered that are still have a status of anything other than closed. So if the port has completed it and it's done, then it will not show on the screen any longer. If it's one that you have created and you're still working on the right under status you want to look. So this one, the second one down, still says initial, so that one you're still working on. Anything with initial you're still working on. Submitted to port. You've submitted to the port and they haven't reviewed it yet. If it's initial or submitted to port, you'll see you have the edit option still. There is a copy link. So if you have importations that are from the same importer and going to the same destination, have all the same information from that initial screen, you could copy and you then have to go find it under Find Importations. Then you can just edit the date of entry and customs entry number would have to be updated, and then upload your animals and attach the spreadsheet, and you'd be done. So there's just a few different ways to do things. Submitted to port, and then under review, port is reviewing it. Received, these down here mean that the port is processing it. So that's just another way to find them. Going back to, and notice when it says received, if the port is processing it or if it's under review, you only have an option to view it. You don't have an option to edit any longer. So go back to animal import, routine import, and find an existing importation again. Again, the screen could just be used to narrow your search more. So I just wanted to search for importations through Dunseith, and then last couple weeks. Search. So these are all your importations for the last couple weeks. And again, the status on the right, you always want to look at that. And these top three are closed. So that means the port has processed them and they're completed. Initial are ones that you've created and have not submitted yet, still working on. Received, port is processing it, and submitted to port. You just submitted it, but the port is not reviewed it yet. And then under here it says showing 1 to 10 of 18 entries. So the page automatically shows 10 entries at a time. You can change that to 25, 50, or 100. So if you change it to 25, it says processing in the middle there, and then it'll show your 25. And then to get to next pages on the bottom right, you can go to previous, next, last, or first to switch between different pages. So I wanted to show, that's pretty much in the live demo. I wanted to show you one more job aid that'll be available on the VSPS Interstate Library. So this one has the same tips section. They'll all have that, so you have that handy if you need it. This goes over, make it so you can see a little better, the process flow. So, of course, start here. You perform your preliminary steps, which is getting your level 1 e-authentication and your VSPS profile and role. That's the first step, and that's a one-time process. So the next step is action 1. These will be what is repeated after you get into VSPS and want to create your different importation requests. So create new importation request. Action 2 is adding your animal information. Action 3 is attaching your documents. And action 4 is submitting to port. So these are these two job aids, the one for the declined importation request and editing, and this one are, handy documents to keep on your desk. They're just like a condensed version of the PowerPoint that I'll also post out there because the PowerPoint is 50 pages, and these are 5. So it's much easier to look at this at your desk instead of paging through a PowerPoint. But the PowerPoint can be nice also because it has the print screens for each screen. So until you get used to it, feel free to, page through that and walk through it step by step. After you do a couple, you'll find that it's pretty simple. The other functions that this job aid goes over is the address book that we went through in the demo, and then how to find your existing importations. Again, you're only seeing your importations. You cannot see anyone else's. So action 1 is creating your importation request, and it just tells you how to get to that area. So animal import, routine import, and create new importation. It goes over the fields and what they mean. We kind of went through that already, so I won't go through each one of those. You can read through those once you get the document. Contact information, Business name or first name and last name are required. You don't have to have business name and first name and last name, but if you have it, you can enter it. Again, if you always select the country first, so it'll populate the provinces or states, whatever is needed. And always check the I affirm box to create the importation request. If you don't check that box, it'll give you an error message saying that you need to check it, so don't worry, you won't be able to miss it. Then the next step after creating the initial importation request is adding your animal information. This goes through what to select, your live animal, bovine, number, and feeding. And then that flows over to your quick pick area after you select those options once. So it's a good idea to just click on that quick pick link on the right because it pre-fills all that information for you. And then it goes through clicking on upload and then browse to the file that you want to upload of the template. And then upload and create and only click on once. And then it gives you the message that your animals have been created, and then click on return to get back to that summary screen. And then the next action is attaching your document, which is just your spreadsheet template that you uploaded. So you click on new and select browse to select your file. You can leave the name to use blank and just click on create. And then it'll list the name of the file here, and of course view, delete if you need to, and then new if you need to attach a different one. And the last action, number 4, is to submit it to the port. And then click on submit, and this just makes a note saying that you can make changes up until the port views the importation request, and then the status will be under review, and you won't have the option to edit at that point. If you saw something, if it is they are reviewing it, and you went in, you saw something that needed to be changed, you could just call the port and let them know, or email them, and depending on what it is, they do have the ability to edit it also. So if it's something easy, they can just edit it. If it's something like a new spreadsheet needs attaching, they can just decline it quick. You'll be able to see it again. You can upload the right one, resubmit it, and then they'll be able to see it again. This is just a little area about the address book on how to add or edit and your options. Adding entry, copy the entry, went over that. Deleting, export and import are not functional. Marking as inactive or active. I'm not sure if a lot of people are really using that. If you mark a contact as inactive, they just wouldn't show up in your search results. But if you're not going to use them for a while, maybe you could do that. And then you can mark them as active again when you want to use them again. But if you do that, just make sure there is a spot on the search in the address book section to search also for inactive addresses. Otherwise, you won't see them. I don't think it's used a lot. And the Appendix B goes over how to find your existing importations. And I went through the different statuses. And this section right here goes over when you're able to still edit the importation request, when it's an initial or submitted to port. And then it goes over the statuses and then lets you know that you can no longer edit the importation request. You only have view access when they're in those statuses. And this little chart, these charts kind of go over it also. And the bottom is just a little screenshot of 2 different statuses showing, since it's an initial, you can edit it, or copy or void it still, and when it's received or any of, under review, approved, received, or closed, you would just have the view access to it. All right, so I believe that is everything I wanted to show you. So why don't we open it up to questions, and I can go over anything that someone has a question on.
And just a reminder to our audience, if you would like to ask a question, please press pound 2 on your telephone keypad. And to submit a written question, use the chat panel on the right-hand side of the screen. Choose All Panelists from the Send To drop-down menu. We just received a verbal question. Caller, your line's unmuted. Please state your name and go ahead.
Hi, Tracy. It's Jake here at Gibson Livestock out of Moose Jaw.
Hi.
Do we have to do these on slaughter loads as well, or just feeder loads?
Well, I could let Dr. Schuler probably answer it also, but right now the plan is just for feeder loads.
And what timeline do we have?
Yes, that's correct. Just feeder.
Go ahead, Dr. Schuler.
No, I was just going to confirm it's just for feeder loads.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Did you have something else?
We did have a written question, not so much related to the interface, but I have heard this will be mandatory sometime soon. Do you have a target date for it going mandatory? Is it only going to be required for feeder cattle? Are there plans to add other species like hogs or other purposes for importation?
It's only intended for feeder cattle at this time. And we do have a tentative date. It's not written in stone. Our plan is to start it September 17th. We still have a little bit of training to do and a few minor updates to make, but those are our target dates. But right now, only for feeder cattle.
At this time, there are no further questions in the queue.
Okay, I guess I just wanted to mention if there are people that are using the current pilot again, because the current pilot is that they're emailing that spreadsheet template to the port. That is a different template than what we're using in this system. So, there will be that transition date whenever we have you start entering the importation request in VSPS. That is when the new template will be used. Until that date, we'll still be using that template that is currently out there and being used. So keep that in mind.
We did receive another written question. What's the expected time frame once we submit a load before it is accepted at port? What happens if truck arrives before the load is accepted?
So once it needs to be submitted to the port, before the truck arrives, or, the truck, I guess won't continue on until they can process it in VSPS. So I know a lot of times it'll probably be, late the night before or early morning that importation requests are submitted to the port, which is fine. It just needs to be submitted before the truck gets there, or at least when the truck is there, and then our port staff can go in and review it and get everything ready to, put on our RFID wands to go out and scan the animals.
What is the timeline for uploading to VSDS before the load gets to the border?
I guess I think I kind of answered that, was that it needs to be submitted to port before the truck gets there.
Please review the process on how we need to update the port of animals that are not loaded on the shipment for a variety of reasons, lameness, overweight, etc.
Okay, so if animals, if you have your spreadsheet of your template, your spreadsheet health certificate of animals that you uploaded, and there's a couple on there that weren't able to be loaded for any reason, you would just send an email to the port. Each port has their own port email address, and that'll be listed in this tips. It'll be on the second page of this. I'm still working on that. If you go to animal import, routine import, and then the port email addresses will be listed in this tips PDF. So you'll list the health certificate number. It'd be good to list the document number. It would start with that T- number, a temporary document number, and then the RFID of the cattle and the owner ear tag if they have one, and then make sure to state in the email these are the animals that were removed from that shipment. And the port will receive that email, and then they can remove the animals from the file.
And at this time, there are no further questions in the queue.
Okay, so like I said, this user documentation, the job aid, PowerPoint, this is being recorded, so it will be available on that VSPS Interstate Library. There's a section for importers and brokers, and that should be available. We're hoping the recordings will be available by next week, and we can post them. And then email that, I'll show you the help email for problems with using VSPS. This vs.vsps.u.s.imports.help@aphis.usa.gov. If you send an email to them, if you have any questions on anything, I'm included in that email, then we can get the help that you need with any of this. We're here for, to help with training and any questions that you have. And I guess if there aren't any more questions, maybe check one more time, and then I think we'll wrap it up.
We do have a question. If the information is not submitted on VSPS, can the load still cross the border, but with the feeder cattle process as previously done?
Once we start, once we have an implementation date, tentatively the September 17th, it'll be required for the feeder cattle loads to be entered into VSPS by the Canadian importer. So if it wasn't, Dr. Schuler, I think you could probably answer also, but I believe they would have to be offloaded. The point here is for this new process is so the cattle don't have to be offloaded at the port, and they can be IDs can be verified on truck.
Yes, that's correct.
Will this be required at other ports than Sunset?
Yes. Dunseith was just my example today. Once the process is started, it will be for feeder cattle for all ports on the Canadian side.
So feeder cattle will be admitted into the U.S. if not submitted on VSPS. They will just have to be offloaded. Thank you.
That's correct, right, Dr. Schiller?
Yep, that's right. And it is starting with the start date. If we start on the 17th, it will be for all ports of entry, not just the 4 that are being used now.
At this time, there are no further questions.
Okay. Like I said, if anyone thinks of anything, send an email to the, if you don't have this VSPS U.S. Imports Help email, I think everyone probably has my email from emailing everyone, or Dr. Schuler. We can answer questions also, so just let us know if you think of anything, any questions. So thanks everyone for joining, and have a good day.
Thanks for joining today's conference. The call has now concluded, and you may disconnect.